Welcome to Around Town, featuring what's happening here in the greater Concord area. I'm your host, Dick Patten. It's a pleasure to welcome you back as we're now in the month of February and it's now half over with, and here we are into March, and baseball is starting up now in Florida and Arizona, and then of course Valentine's has gone by, but now we're getting ready for the Shamrocks for the St. Patrick's Day. But all in all, I think spring is on the horizon. Maybe I don't know which horizon it is, but it's coming. But so with that in mind, and of course school vacations coming up for the high schoolers, and of course in the colleges, spring break will be coming up, or winter break, or whatever break. But
good for them.
Yes, I know. I am very pleased today to have as my guest Jeff. Here we go again.
Not a problem.
Czarnec.
Czarnec. Yeah, that's right. Yep.
There we go.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And his role, now he's with Southern New Hampshire University.
Right.
And what is your actual title there, Jeff?
Associate Dean.
Okay.
And in the Social Sciences unit, and where we encompass a number of different social science programs, namely anywhere from criminal justice, which is my wheelhouse area, political science, anthropology, sociology, and human services.
Oh, my goodness.
That's under my particular umbrella.
My gosh, you got quite an umbrella there, don't you?
Well, it's good, though. It's a good problem to have. You know, I mean, academia is not for the faint of heart. It's changed dramatically over the last few years, especially with the advent of online education, which is where I work. We're strictly online. It's the College of Online and Continuing Education. So it has changed a lot, and we've had to respond to the change in the market, and online education seems to work quite well for a lot of people, most notably adult learners who don't necessarily have the time to get in a car and commute to a classroom in the evening hours after a long day and feeding the kids, etc. So it's a good problem we have. I mean, we're up over 70-some-odd thousand students, across the board in all the programs. That's business and nursing, etc., and the fine arts and writing. But this is where I'm at. This is kind of where I migrated towards, to stay nimble and flexible. If you're going to stay involved in it as a career, you got to make those adjustments. So that's my long-winded answer as to where I am and what I do.
Well, I was pleased because we were on Facebook the other day and we were talking, and somehow your name came up on my list there, and you accepted my friendship or whatever, and then I found out that what you did, and I thought, boy, that'd be a good show to have, because we've had the tech school on a couple of times here in Concord, but I said, Southern New Hampshire University has become, well, I remember the days it was called New Hampshire College.
Wasn't that long ago, right?
And I think it was also known as New Hampshire College of, I want to say A&M, but I don't think it was that, agriculture or something in there, but boy, they've really grown. And of course I had one of my best friends graduated from there. His name was Joshua Harwood. That was back in the mid 2004, 2005, somewhere in that general area. He graduated from Southern New Hampshire, and now he was working for Hannaford for years,
right? And
now he is teaching at Manchester Community College,
right,
off 293.
Right.
So I said, wow. So he had told me years ago he wanted to be a teacher or whatever at a college, and well, here he is. So
good for him, and he's in a good spot.
Yeah,
community colleges are, there were years ago, Dick, that community colleges was kind of looked upon as maybe vocational in some respects.
Yeah.
But right now they're probably one of the most effective forms of education for people coming out of high school.
Well, I mean, a lot of them can't afford the high tuition in some cases.
Yep.
Although if you listen to one political candidate, it's going to be free tuition for everybody. But yeah, right, you can pay for it.
Yeah.
But I mean, and of course, Southern New Hampshire. I mean, their campus, I thought was more in downtown area of Manchester, but they're up in Hooksett. Well, I'll say Manchester, Hooksett area.
Yeah, that's right.
Derrickville, but they've really added on up there.
Yeah, they've invested quite well into the campus. The business plan that really created the foundation for the phenomenal growth of the online university has generated a tremendous amount of revenue. And I don't have access to all those sheets or anything like that, or the P&L, and I guess anyone could look at that. But I believe, from what I've seen with the advent of the growth of the online school, they've been able to reinvest, and invest wisely and really beautifully up there on the campus itself.
Wow.
The new cafeteria, etc. The fields. It really is something to see now.
Well, it's right on the riverbanks of the Merrimack River, so it's a beautiful area.
And it's easy to get to, etc.
We're off exit 10, right?
Yes, it is.
Up there.
Yep.
If you're going down 93, you can see some of the dorms.
Yep.
Or coming up.
Not far from 28, etc. So it's within arm's reach of anybody who wants to go for the brick and mortar experience. And they have satellite campuses too, like Salem and Nashville, etc. Portsmouth, Brunswick, Maine.
Brunswick, Maine.
Yeah.
Really?
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
Yep. So they've done everything they can to give themselves a broad enough footprint for access.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially in this part of the country. This is an area of the country which is not necessarily saturated with colleges, but there are a lot of college universities, and which is good because it forces you to be, like I said, nimble. You've got to take advantage of your market. You got to be accessible. That's the key.
And of course, as I said to you on the phone, we were talking. I think I was on the phone about when is the day going to come that Southern New Hampshire becomes a Division I powerhouse in sports? Because I know you've got your big rivalry with St. Anselm and what's the other one down there?
Yeah, I don't want to say Bentley. I forget. No. I know what you're talking about.
St. Anselm and there's one other one.
Yeah.
I don't think it's Franklin Pierce, but maybe it's Assumption. No.
Could be.
I don't know, but I know it's down in that southern part of New Hampshire or Massachusetts area. We always hear about the rivalry, but mostly it's St. A's and. But you've got a hockey program, right?
I believe there is. I don't.
So
that's a good question. I'm not sure because if they do, I think they have to play at the Tri-Town Arena in Hooksett. But I'm just kind of digressing a little bit.
But you don't have a football team, all right?
No.
So I'm wondering when that day is going to happen because
I'm a sports fanatic. I love to see it.
Oh, I know, and I can just see eventually down the road a rivalry with University of New Hampshire.
Right.
I think it would be a great thing to see it, but of course, it's the money to start up a program like that is fun.
Yeah.
And I imagine you'd have to start probably Division III or whatever, and then work your way up to Division I.
Yeah, much like St. A's has done over the last decade. When they brought football back. And that's my alma mater from my undergrad. I was really happy to see them do that.
Really?
I never thought I'd see it. When I went there, I graduated in '79. It was a relatively Spartan campus in terms of what they had. They had baseball and I played rugby and things like that. Yeah. But they've grown, monumentally. And
really?
Well, yeah. If you've seen that campus now, I wish I was a student there. Now it's beautiful. Yeah. It was very nice when I went. No question about it. The education was phenomenal. It was great. Really? The Jesuit teaching philosophy was really, really good.
So you came from New Hampshire then? You're
in a way, right? my folks grew up here. All my cousins and my whole family was Manchester based and born, etc. My dad's job, he was in publishing for many years, took us to New York when I was 6. So I grew up on Long Island, New York. But when I got out of St. A's, I came back, I guess, if you want to call it that, to the roots, and moved. I took the police job in Manchester.
You were a police officer?
Yeah, for 23 years in Manchester. Yeah.
How high did you go up in it?
I left as call it a detective, which is quasi kind of a rank, but I didn't get promoted. It was a different flavor back then in terms of promotion was largely political.
Really?
Yeah. So it wasn't. That's just the way it was, and the way it is in a lot of places, a lot of departments. You have that political element, and there's just no dismissing that. No regrets. So I had a very good time there. Made some great friends. We made a lot of inroads there. It's a very good city to be a police officer in because you can make a difference. Yeah. I mean, like Concord too, and you can make a difference. It's not so large that it's a lesson in futility. You can actually do something there, and change people's lives. And I know that sounds kind of corny, maybe, but if you're in that business for that reason, you can do it there.
Because I was actually police dispatcher for 30 years.
Right. Yeah. Right. Well, the nerve-wracking end of it.
Because I started out in '74
with
the Merrimack County Sheriff's Department. And then from there I went to Pittsfield, started up at dispatch, and then I ended up with Bo at Concord Hospital. And then I had a stroke, and that was it.
Right.
But
30 years is a long time.
Yeah, and back when we started, there was no such thing as computers. It was all pen and pencil, boy, and you had no recorders to record your phone calls on, or none of these fancy, like I said. And then finally, they started coming out with the microfiche.
Yes,
to look up the motor vehicle listings if you could. And then, of course, we finally got the spots terminal in.
Yes, I remember that.
We had to go get certified to use it.
Yep.
You know, so I mean, it was.
We thought those were big steps.
Oh God, we thought we were big deals.
We were in the 21st century then, you know.
We were big deals going using that.
But now the technology they have now is I don't think anyone could have predicted it in terms of its application. I mean, they've mobile data terminals in the cruisers, and no reports are generated via paper. They're all electronic, etc. It's just really something. It's made things efficient.
Because I belong to the Grange here in New Hampshire,
right?
And we honored the police officer from Manchester a couple of years ago, who got shot down there.
Mike Briggs.
Yes, Michael Briggs.
Yes.
No, not Briggs.
It was Ralph Miller.
Oh no, it was just
Dan Doherty, but he survived. Yeah,
that's the one.
Yeah.
Yeah, but was it Dan?
Dan Doherty. Yeah.
I didn't think his name was Dan.
Yeah, he survived. Yeah.
And as we honored him, he came to our convention, and we presented him with a inspirational award or award of something like that.
Yeah.
Award of excellence.
Well deserved.
Yeah.
Yeah, well deserved.
He came, and we were so happy to have him there.
He's a true gentleman.
So it was Doherty. I
yes.
think it was something else.
Yeah.
And Briggs lived in Concord.
Yes.
Back not too far from here.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
So when did you retire from
2002, December.
Okay.
2002. Yeah. To assume my second career, I started off with Hesser College in the criminal justice department.
That's gone by with.
Yes, it is. Yeah. Sad to say, and it was a very, very good school.
I wondered when you mentioned criminal justice, how did he get in the middle of that? I just didn't put the two and two together. But,
right.
But that is, I mean, in the state house, of course, I'm a state representative, and I serve on transportation. And this week, we had a bill come into our committee that we had a hearing on about. In fact, we had to exec it this week about the scanning the license plates.
Oh yeah.
And so I made the motion to pass it, because I seconded it. And, we had some members of the committee who felt that was invading their privacy and all that. But, the thing of it is, when you go through the Hooksett toll booth, I'm sure Hampton too, but Hooksett, you see those blue lights going off, they're scanning your plates right there.
Yeah. Yeah, the plates are the property of the state anyway. It's a privilege to have them. You pay for them. Yeah. Basically, you're renting them if you think about it.
Yeah.
It's a property of the state. They're not private, and they're sitting out there in public view all the time.
So,
so
I was glad they got that. And as I said, hey, if the town doesn't want them, don't buy them. But hey, at least give the officers a chance to, we're there to protect them.
Yeah.
Give them what they need, for God's sakes.
Yeah, and it's just, I know people, they would be worried that it's a slippery slope, that it could be abused like anything else.
Yeah.
But that's not necessarily up to anybody else except those people who are charged with the training and maintenance of integrity. Your chiefs of police and the trainers to say, listen, it's a tool, but it's not to be abused.
So how many students do you have in your classes?
Ooh, we have...
Do you find a lot of kids, or I should say, young people, young adults into the criminal justice areas?
It's funny you ask that, because right now we're experiencing a strong and steady growth. They brought me in to develop a criminal justice program for them specifically 3.5 years ago, and because they were looking for a program that would speak to those people who were like information that was explicit in terms of employability. That's why I was talking about the change in education. You have to, when you're creating programs now, all right, to appeal to the, to the prospective students out there, the appeal has to contain validity and relevance to employability. And you call it vocational, which that's no longer a dirty word, especially when you're talking $1 trillion in outstanding student loans, right?
Yeah.
So, long story short, we do have a steadily growing program that was designed to attract students so that they know that if they go into the program, they'll have a very, very strong, consistent idea or development of ideas to where they belong in the system as an employee of this whole criminal justice system.
Sure.
And so we have the numbers right now. Oh, boy. I have to look back. And we populate each classroom with 28, 29 students maximum.
Yeah.
at any given time, we're around about 200 sections of criminal justice, so you can pretty much do the math there. And that's at we have the graduate level program, which is actually rolling out this coming term.
Yeah.
You know, so we're a work in progress. It's growing rapidly, steadily. You know, but I don't have exact head count right now.
So after they take your class and graduate from it, then they have to go to the academy, obviously.
No, well, we don't have a direct bridge to the employment. In other words, you have to, if you're, say you're a criminal justice, I want to study criminal justice so I can become a marketable employee or a marketable candidate, I should say, right? Okay. What programs like that do, or any social science program, right, that is it will give you the information that will, let's just say, create the foundation for you to be able to present yourself well to somebody who's looking to hire you. Yeah. So it's, you know, it's understanding of the laws, understanding of, you know, the Constitution, it's understanding of people, a lot of those different things. It's heavily, a lot of liberal arts courses in there, so you get the well-rounded education so you can present yourself well. But you have to test on your own for the individual agencies you decide that you want to select and maybe get hired by. Yeah. We don't have a lot of control over that. We do a lot of networking. In other words, most, if not all, of my instructors that teach it are working people. They're all adjunct, you know. So they're all either chiefs of police or FBI agents. They're intel, they're Homeland Security, they're corrections professionals, they're judges, prosecutors. We have the entire. Well, what's good about them is they're one degree of separation between the student and employability. So our instructors also help with the networking and career advice, and we have an active and a very aggressive career support services program in the university. So it helps them gain that idea, but we don't test them. You know, we don't say, okay, you're hired now. Yeah. You know, because there are things, I'll be honest with you, that we don't have control over. No. You know, when you're looking to become a police officer, you it's good to have the degree and the education, but they are looking for character, reasoning, maturity, common sense, your ability to make good decisions, right? If you made bad decisions, that's going to hurt you. We don't have any control over that. So if we have a student who could be a phenomenal academic, really good, but if they went out and they got involved in a DWI, or they were arrested for another reason, or they did drugs, things like that, we don't have control over that. Yeah. We can insist and tell them as much as we can, educate them. Be very careful of what you do, what you say, where you go, who you associate with. Social media, we tell them use a lot of caution with Facebook, what you say, who you talk to, you know, because the demand for someone of, you know, that utmost character is very, very high, very, and not easy. You know, and they put you through the paces to get. I bet they do. Well, you've got a written exam, a physical agility exam, you have an oral board interview, you have polygraph, lie detector, background investigation, psychological. Yeah, and a medical. Oh yeah. So it's probably easier to run for Congress than it is sometimes, you know, to have to go through those 5 or 6 very very challenging, and it can take 6 months to a year for those things to actually evolve. Sure. Yeah. So it's very hard, and they're not letting their guard down in terms of standards. You know, and they're right. They may be shorthanded in a lot of areas, maybe Concord, Manchester, but they don't want to lower their standards just to fill the ranks either. No. So an education does definitively help. You know, if I'm looking to hire somebody, if I'm a chief of police and I've got 2 people sitting in front of me, and I've got one as an English major and I've got a criminal justice major, my scale's going to tip towards a CJ major because it automatically demonstrated zeal. Yeah. This is not just a job; they're looking for a career. So if somebody comes to you, asks you, "Hey, we have an opening here, Jeff, to be chief of police somewhere or whatever," you think you'd go back into it, or are you happy staying at the university? I would not. I don't say no to anything. I don't put any blinders on to any opportunities, you know, at all. No. But you never had a desire to go to the state police or the marshal service? You know, like I said, I did my 23 with Manchester, and I had built up, while I was on the job, was building a second career, planning ahead. So I had gotten I went and earned my master's degree from Springfield College at School of Human Services in the early 90s, and then started working on a doctorate. And then I received my doctorate from Franklin Pierce University in leadership studies with a focus on cultural criminology. So I was building a second career. And I love being, don't get me wrong, I love being a police officer, but there was also the appeal of normalcy.
Oh, I bet.
You know, of leaving and
well, it's changed.
Yeah.
I mean, it's sad, but it has changed out there.
Yeah, very much so.
The type of people, I shouldn't say this because it's terrible this thing to say, but the type of crimes have changed from what you had 20 years ago. You know, I mean, I think back when I first started dispatching in '74, I think the worst thing I had was probably domestic disputes on Thanksgiving and Christmas because the husband and wives couldn't decide who was going to have their child on what day and what time, or were they going to be there on time to get them.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, other than that, we didn't have a lot of problems like that because, you know, we had, I think, 12 towns that we dispatched for back those days at Merrimack County, but of course now they got more, but you know, it was just different. I mean, I can remember some of the calls I took. I had a couple of suicide calls on there once. Mm-hmm. One time it was a joke, one time it was real. Right. And I'm telling you, it really, you think back and you know, get all the information you can get, and sometimes, and then when you send that officer out, you got to make sure, because you're their lifeline.
Oh, yes, you are.
And if they don't,
we relied on you guys like no
tomorrow. We used to, and on traffic stops, we'd say we're going to give you we'll give you 10 minutes. I didn't. I used to give them 5 minutes, just enough to say, "Are you okay?"
Right.
Then go ahead with your stuff. But boy, if they didn't answer me after the second time of trying, boy, I had backup started.
No, dispatchers with guardian angels.
You.
Guardian angels because they monitored where you were, what you did, what your progress was,
well,
and they were the only one who really, in many respects, oftentimes knew where you were.
Yeah.
You know, and that's they were great. You know, and they have, and God bless all the people in communications. You know, when it hits the fan, and there are 3 or 4 or 5 different units needing help all at once, and they have to manage that. You know, perhaps more deftly than an air traffic controller because you're talking lives. And so you know what I'm talking about, but we relied upon them for speed and accuracy like no tomorrow. They do a phenomenal job. And that's around the clock too, you know. Whew.
Well, I'm sorry to have got you on to this subject, but
not at all.
It hits me home, you know, because I mean, should be talking about Southern New Hampshire University, but it is. It is, but you know, I mean, it's just such a dangerous position out there. Even firefighters, any of those teachers.
Well, it does relate to education. I know it does. You know, Dick, you're right though, but it does relate to education, because you know, if in education, if it does nothing, it makes you a better thinker. You're ahead of the curve. Yeah. You can make better judgments. Yeah. Okay. You can make better decisions. Yeah. You can make them faster, and you're more likely to be more accurate. For police officers in education, the studies have shown. A police officer with a college education, 85% of the time, is more likely to make ethical decisions than an officer who does not. Sure. Because it's supposed to, you know, like I said, offer a well-rounded view of the human condition so you can offer remedy. You're a problem solver. But you can't be if you ignore certain things. Yeah. I call it ignorance. If you're not aware of different cultures, the different fabric of the society, how to relate to people, and how to be nimble at that from one call to the next. And education is a good foundation for that, Dick, because you get, like I said, a wide range of viewpoints, and then you form your own, but it makes you a much better thinker. And that's what we need out there.
Who ever thought years ago that when you sent your child to school, either on the school bus or you drove them to school, that in this world today that you would have somebody come in there with a gun and shoot kids? Or whatever, or go on to colleges like Virginia Tech there and some of these colleges. Yeah. Who would ever thought that? And you have to start thinking, well, what is encouraging this? Is it the stuff we watch on TV? Is it the movies we see at the theaters? You know, where is this coming from?
That's the question of the day, and
it's sad.
You ask 5 people, you'll get 5 different answers. You know, and you ask 10, you'll get 10. Yeah. I don't see it as being one. It would be nice to say it's this. Wouldn't we like to have one answer for all problems? But you just can't. You know, you talk about why do people think the way they do? Why do they behave the way they do? I know. You know, and I'll give you an example. I did my dissertation. I don't know if you recall the. South Boston, for many, many years, they really had a big problem with the Whitey Bulger Irish mob. Yeah. And many of those guys either dead or retired. Well, I was able to reach out to one of the upper echelon members. He's a retired gangster by the name of Patten. when I was starting to work on my dissertation for Franklin Pierce, and I asked him if he wouldn't mind working with me on mine. He said, sure, why not?
Sure.
So I pretty much lived down in South Boston for quite some time.
Yeah.
And got to know all of them.
Sure.
And here's the theme, because I've always been a fan of various criminological thought. The big question, why do people do the things they do? Okay.
I know, yeah.
Why do people do bad things? And the reason why they did it was because they liked it. Not one of them, and I'm talking anywhere from the Italian mafia to the Irish mafia, and these are not just these weren't low-lying, lower echelon players. I'll say we did it because we liked it.
Yeah.
We did crime because we liked it, and we'd do it again if we could. So when you think about why do people do bad things, is there a certain element of joy? Do they get a certain amount of pleasure from it? What is it they're trying to address up here?
Yeah.
And, like I said, depending on who you ask, whether they're professionals or otherwise, you'll get a wide variety of answers. If you find that one answer, maybe we'll get a chance to stop that sort of thing, like your Sandy Hooks and your, et cetera. So, but
I mean, even like as I said, going to college, who would ever imagine that you would take your life in your hands when you go there? I mean, really, who would ever thought, gee, I'm going to college, I'm excited first day, and finding a dorm room or whatever, and then all of a sudden you hear that one tragedy. It's like, whoever thought such a thing could happen like that?
Well, I look at it this way. I mean, when I came on the job in 1979, you wouldn't, if somebody said and asked me, hey, do you think there'll ever be police officers staffed in schools? What for? What for? Yeah. Now you've got them in all schools. School resource officers. Yeah. Why? What's the response? What's the reaction? Because of this, I don't know if you want to call it a trend, but, there's been enough of them out there to say, there's a trend. And schools have become targets. So we're looking at becoming an armed camp because of that, where schools should be safe haven. And you're right. So it's a never-ending problem right now, and I'm not going to say you can blame guns or blame this or blame that. A lot of people that have a lot of your shooters that have been either arrested or killed themselves, they had mental health problems. Yeah. Access to a firearm and they had mental health problems.
I know.
Right?
Yeah.
So can you cure one and not the other?
No.
Can you talk about one without the other? I don't think you can.
No.
So it's a big, huge, wide-ranging problem. And if I had the answer, I'd probably win the Nobel Peace Prize, I guess.
I think we all would.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, well, it's getting down near time, but it's been super having you come on, and
thank you.
We could talk all day, but I just never realized that was part of your responsibility, and then to think that you were also a police officer, that really... There was an officer in Manchester a number of years ago, because in 1988, I was in charge of programming for the Hampshire State Grange.
Yeah.
And we got involved with the teddy bear program.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Oh, very much so. They put them in all the cruises.
That's right.
Very much so.
And I had an officer from Manchester because we were meeting we had our convention that year in Manchester at the now it's the Radisson. Back then, I think it was the Holiday Inn or something. Right. And we had this officer. He wore glasses. He was a jolly guy. And I can't remember his name. I want to say Steve something, but I can't remember. And we loaded him up with teddy bears. I bet he got at least 200 or more teddy bears to take back. And I still can see him.
I tell you, those things paid dividends. I remember at several car accidents, most notably, Dick. I mean, you got a little kid crying because they've been in, they're in the back seat of a car. They got into an accident. They're crying. That teddy bear worked wonders.
I bet. Do they still need teddy bears today?
I do not know. It's a good question.
I have to find out, because after me, there was the person who took my place didn't like it, so they dropped it. But then somebody else who came in after him liked it and brought it back. But by that time, some other group was doing it.
Well, if they need any support for it, let them know. I'd be more than happy to say I thought it worked.
Yeah, I know, it was good. So Well, it's been a pleasure having you come on,
thank
Jeff.
You very much.
We're going to have to get you back on again, because I can see more topics to talk about.
Sure.
And it's just been a real pleasure to
have you
come on. So
thank you very much.
With that in mind, we want to thank my director again. I call him my super director over there, but Ian has done such wonders with the show and really got it out there. It's on YouTube, and you can watch it. He'll have it on there. And so with that in mind, we've been visiting with Jeff
Czarnec.
Yeah.
Yep.
From Southern New Hampshire University. And if you have any questions, you go online and find him, or give him a call down there, and he'll be more than happy to answer questions.
Absolutely. Yep.
Get you what you need.
Thank you.
So, thank you so much again, sir.
My pleasure.
And we'll look forward to seeing you again. So, with that in mind, I'm Dick Patten from around town, and there's my buzzer. So, there you go.
Thank you, Dick.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
Me too.
Great talk.